Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime, here at my next Airspeed's Avatar Rewatch video. This one's going to be for Book 3 Fire, Episode 10, The Day of Black Sun, Part 1, The Invasion. And yeah, this one's animated by JM Animation, and yeah, it's the kind of mid-season finale. It's an interesting one for sure, because you go into what the main characters plan to be their kind of final assault, knowing that there's so many episodes left. I think there's always been a sense with these episodes that everyone always knows going in that it's probably going to fail, because you do have in the background knowledge that Azula knows that the invasion plan is coming when the eclipse comes, and she is clever enough that she must have had some countermeasure in play. But it doesn't really take all that much away from these episodes, especially this first one, because it is just this... It's just so cool to see like all of our main hero characters coming together. You know, they get in their kind of battle outfits, their kind of end of series kind of character redesigns. We get the return of a lot of minor characters, and just the sense of like this is the last main group of people opposing the Fire Nation. It's kind of do or die time, win now or potentially the war is going to go on forever type thing. And it's a really, really impactful episode because the plan is kind of so well executed, and while obviously a lot of the really, really big moments happen in the second part, there's still just some really fun stuff in this episode just to see how the plan goes ahead, and that like getting onto the land is like the Water Tribe's job for the most part, because it's like Sokka's plan, the kind of technology that they've used to kind of get through. But it's for the most part, like the Earthbenders aren't really doing a ton during this section of the plan. But then the second they hit the land, like it's all kind of Earth Kingdom tanks come out. They're really heavily involved because, you know, there's not many Waterbenders involved in the group, so it has to be mainly Earthbenders attacking. So just a really cool dynamic to see within the group, and adding to just the general warriors on both sides. The fact that like we have Haru, the Boulder, the Hippo, Hugh, Tho, the Mechanist, Teo, all these characters who they've met along the way, and it's so, you know, interesting just to see them all show up at the start. I think the one criticism perhaps is you know, maybe characters they leave out, in that I would have thought it would have been a really cool thing to actually see the leaders of both the Ganjin and the Zhang tribe appear at the invasion, because they were both revealed to be basically pretty skilled characters. By the end of that episode, you'd resolved more or less the issue of their tribes, and enough time has passed that you would assume that they would have led their tribes to safety. You know, maybe it was a bit kind of one-off, like they kind of met them and then left them, and it wasn't really a friendship as such that they developed. But you sort of felt like if they were, you know, basically Sokka was implied to have sent basically word round, like via his father, to like search for these people to gather them up for the invasion, that maybe they could have met them along the way. Still, I would have liked to have seen them, just to add another different dynamic, to have those two characters involved in the plan. But for the most part, I think they hit obviously the key characters, you know, your Harus. I thought it was a really cool idea to have some of their, you know, Earth Rumble guys come back. Yeah, just set up that like you kind of have in the invasion, it's not just going to be like Team Avatar together as a group, you know, fighting while all the other characters fight. Like, no, Toph is kind of like with the Earthbenders as part of the group. She's not like with Katara for a lot of the fight. She's not with Sokka for most of the fight. It's just, you know, she's with that group. Really, it's only like Katara, because kind of Katara is kind of given like command, kind of control over Appa for most of the battle. That she's kind of on her own, just going around doing what she can, because I suppose, you know, Sokka has to be more involved with the warriors and like the main direction of the kind of invasion plan, because he's kind of more or less, you know, I suppose going into the battle, you know, somewhere pretty high up in the command chain next to Hakoda, so he's with them, while Katara is you know, just kind of filling in the gaps, I suppose, with Appa as one of their main really amazing modes of transport across the battlefield. And I think that's just interesting by itself, that Aang obviously has a very separate task to everyone else. He's going off to confront Ozai while all this is going down, whereas you know, he has to leave Appa behind and Katara is put in charge. I just like that as a little thing that they have in the battle. And yeah, it's a really cool fight to see all the different technologies come together, like seeing like basically the invention of submarines in this world, how they get by the gates, and the kind of, the ships that they have, the submarines come out of them, and then it's still basic submarines because they have no way of obviously like storing air. It's just whatever air is in there, they have to resurface and then go back down. And yeah, just the Earth Kingdom tanks that come into play later on. It's just really clever planning, and shows you that like behind the scenes across like most of the seasons since the library, Sokka's been planning this stuff. He's obviously been making Appa armor, but he's also been coming up with these other like ideas for like tanks and like submarines and so on. The plan is his. That's a big moment at the start of the episode, is Sokka's, I suppose, failed attempt to explain the plan to everyone. It was meant to be, I suppose, to some degree, one of his big moments of like the guy who came up with the plan explaining it to everyone and people being impressed by him. And I suppose it comes back a little later on with regards to why Sokka's put in charge. But it's a nice moment, and I suppose it again is like the counterpoint to like 309, where Aang deals with a kind of nerves about something, but that's kind of not very well done in that episode. But here, it's actually really well done. Just the fact that Sokka now has his chance to prove himself, but with everyone there, up in front of everyone, he struggles to just, portray this plan to everyone because he's not a public speaker. And it's left for Hakoda to step up and actually explain it and, get the morale going again. Showing you that, I suppose, while Sokka has developed a lot, that he hasn't just immediately gone from like 0 to 100. There's still room for him to develop, and a lot of that is, I suppose, this final step is just being there, seeing his father lead, and getting an example of how you actually like keep the morale of your troops going. And I think even just from the little bit of the battle that Hakoda's in charge of, Sokka learns and then puts that into action going forward, because obviously I think you asked the question once Hakoda's injured, why is Sokka put in charge of the invasion force? Why wouldn't it not be like a Bato or even a Tyro, someone else like that? Why is such a young character put in charge? I suppose it's mainly because Sokka came up with the plan, so he knows it the best. So having him somewhere near the top in terms of leading makes sense. And I think most of the characters realize he has the potential to be a really good leader, so they kind of take a chance on him here. Plus, I think the fact that Bato more or less acts as a kind of like advisor to Sokka about some of the more like experienced kind of warrior kind of things, about like assisting Sokka make the decisions, whereas he still is overall in the lead. So I think they do that quite well. Overall, that Bato kind of remains like second in command like the entire time through, but it's just he's aware that Hakoda and Sokka have the higher potential cap as like leaders. You obviously get Sokka's big moment that everyone remembers, which is him, ordering the wedge formation and then doing the big charge scene. They cut away from it immediately, but it's still a nice moment to see him really form up. The formation's getting a bit ragged, and he's like, no, we're pushing towards the final goal now. This is the formation we're going for. We're going to hit them hard, and they all go along with him. It's Sokka's big step up moment in the fight, and he has to do it because the plan was really in danger of kind of falling apart when Hakoda got injured, because he was their leader. And it's not to say that the invasion group had like leadership problems, but they were so, I suppose, enhanced by having Hakoda be such a good leader that they needed someone to fill that gap immediately and not make the loss of Hakoda something that was just crippling to the invasion. So Sokka stepping up in the way he did was really, really well done. And it was an emotional moment, of course, seeing for Sokka and Katara seeing their father get injured, and thankfully Katara is there to heal him immediately afterwards. And as much as it's established to be a bad injury, she could heal it enough to where he's there and thereabouts. He's like involved and can be involved in like some decision making here, though he can't fight anymore in this battle. So I thought that was a well done kind of action scene of like, they're not really threatening to like kill Hakoda here, but like he got injured and he was key to the plan, so it was a bit of a risk in terms of what happened. I like the swamp benders being back. It created a very different dynamic because they're such different types of benders, and that they don't really wear armor, so they're doing very different moves, and especially Hugh with the kind of the seaweed kind of stuff that he does. Um, it's just really cool to see that happening, and just the way they did the plan. Once they got on land, it's take out the battlements. They're what's causing us problem, and then we'll break through. Um, the other stuff here is, I suppose, Aang's talk to Sokka just prior to the battle. I actually really liked. I wish 9 was a stronger episode to maybe explain this a bit more, because I like the idea that maybe Sokka and the rest of the group helped Aang get through something in episode 9, and now here's a confident Aang helping Sokka through something. It's just, wow, the Aang's issue was made to be such a joke in the last episode. But still, it's a strong scene here as Aang basically just points out that, like, no one's really good at public speaking, you know, and Sokka points out his father is, but, like, he's like, your moment of truth wasn't up there on stage. It's going to be in the middle of the battle. That's when you get a chance to prove yourself, and I believe that you can do it. And I suppose Sokka has the point of just like, why are you so confident? And Aang's just kind of like I failed before, I can't fail again, I have to do this. And he just has that, you know, supreme confidence going into this. So that was a really nice scene. And I suppose just before that, seeing him at the start, still with the hair, some of the old outfit, seeing him be the one where they kind of wait to have his big hero mode of him shaving off his hair, the arrows back, it's the Avatar, he's making himself much more visible once again as the Avatar, and he kind of has this kind of mix of like a little bit of Fire Nation clothing combined with overall like an air nomad kind of outfit, which is really cool. I love Aang's book 3 outfit. Basically, like, everything from here onwards with Aang is really well done. Like, him in the comic, his design is really well done as well. It kind of makes me look back on book 1 and 2 and his outfit there and be like, that's young Aang. That's the outfit for a much younger Aang. And I very much see him as like book 3 Aang, as like the character I imagine when I look back on ATLA, more so than anything else. But that's about it. Like, Toph is used in the fight, of course, but she's not really a focus. As I said, she is more just placed with the earthbending unit. Like, it's her, the boulder, and the hippo are like the main kind of wrecking crew, I suppose, of the invasion group, which is fun to see. Would have liked maybe a little bit more of a focus kind of with those 3, just like really doing some damage rather than just, I think we saw them like chuck a few rocks and they were there and thereabouts in the battle. But you know, to see them doing some really cool stuff would have been nice. What else is there? I suppose the Zuko side of the episode and the Iroh side. The Zuko one's interesting in that clearly he's writing this final letter to May, and as I said in the last episode review, it's an interesting one because it again shows you the one thing that Zuko's still having regrets over now, even though he's basically decided on what he has to do, is that the only thing really holding him in the Fire Nation anymore, the only regret he's going to have when he leaves, is May. That May is this positive influence on him. It's this thing that he wishes that he didn't have to go away from, and so that's why he's leaving a letter for her. And obviously it speaks to maybe Zuko's lack of communication here, in terms of maybe him not trusting her enough to kind of make a decision about where she would side. But it just overall speaks to, like, he's the one person left that he really cares about enough to say something to about this. That, in a way, like, him leaving that message behind could, like, cause a problem if May, like, leaked what he was planning to do or anything like that. So it's you know, to some degree some sort of trust, but it's the kind of sacrifice he feels he kind of has to make, is like leaving that relationship behind for the fate of what he believes is the world and his destiny going forward. Just nice moment, just as we get the big stuff with him in the next episode, but pretty solid. With Iroh, we basically get the idea that one of the other guards that's looking after Iroh is this female guard called Ming, voiced by Serena Williams, of course. And just that she actually is much nicer to Iroh than the previous guard. And she seems to like him and, you know, give him tea, give him these little bits of extra food that the other guy wouldn't. And again, it's meant to represent this idea that Ming has been the only positive thing really to come from Iroh being in prison, and he's specifically warning her, basically, like that, you should probably take the day off coming up soon because I'm going to do something, which is pretty cool, clearly making it very clear that Iroh knows that the eclipse is coming up and that will be his chance to escape or something like that. It's still, there's a lot of mystery around it, I suppose, with regards to like how Iroh got the information to Zuko about episode 6, plus how he kind of, I suppose, knew about the eclipse overall. I get he's part of the Order of White Lotus, but there's some sort of like, how did he know about the eclipse? That's kind of missing, I suppose, a little bit. But it's still a strong kind of moment of just him setting up things of like, he doesn't want to potentially have to hurt this guard who was nice to him if she's there on the day, so tells her to basically take the day off. I think that's more or less it for this section of the episode. So overall, really, really strong episode. It definitely has the impact of being just this like really strong mid-season finale, biggest battle we've kind of seen in the series up to this point. Everyone coming together, good use of all the minor characters coming back to make it clear that this has been a journey, that the reason the force that they have is strong, even though like the Earth Kingdom has fallen, is because they have met and had a positive influence. Team Avatar have met and had a positive influence on a lot of people along their way, and all these people are coming back to repay them that favor by participating in this battle for the fate of the world. And I think the Boulder, in a way, kind of sums it up when he says, like, we don't fight for people's entertainment anymore, we fight for our kingdom. That's what it's about now. You get rid of all these like little personal squabbles. This is about like the fate of the world, and that gets rid of any sort of tension that was there in the past previously, because the Boulder and the Hippo were kind of against Toph last time we saw them, but it clearly establishes, I suppose, here that she was actually friends with most of the Earth Rumble kind of group prior to this, that it basically was like a wrestling organization where like the fights were kind of pre-planned more or less, and they knew each other and they worked out things properly. So I'd almost like to see like if that's kind of what that was really meant to be, that they knew the Blind Bandit and like they knew her in a similar way to the way like Team Avatar know her, but maybe it was just more work focused. But that's just a little point. But yeah, that's my thoughts on 310, the invasion, first part of Day of Black Sun. And yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.